Oh, okay.
Who was long-winded like me and so only for himself.
But no matter what you do, they are going to try to intimidate you. They will try to intimidate you to try to get you to change your mind.
That would be insane.
Okay, so it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what you say in court against our system. They're going to come back on you and try to intimidate you to get you to concede to them.
Right.
And give your consent.
That's right.
Then, so there now several things that I just kind of like to touch on real quick, and then we'll get to some questions and answers and stuff, and then we're going to kind of close it down. But I want to show you some of the things that we kind of touch on in the meetings. I'd kind of like to get the meetings going again for at least once a month. Okay, if there's enough interest in them to do it. And and the more people that we can get to understand this, the better our standing in our world will be. And so the one thing I wanted to point out here real quick is you were talking about persons. Okay, well, like this is Black Laws 6th edition. Okay, and you got persons here, and it starts right here for the definitions of person. Okay. And it goes all the way down here, all of this room, and clear down to here. Just the definition for person.
Why would they need some of the definitions for something the same person?
Because they can make it whatever they want.
That's right.
Like the difference between lawful and legal. Okay, it's real simple. You know, you can relate it to what's 2 and 2. Lawfully, 2 and 2 is 4. Legally, 2 and 2 is anything you want to make it.
That's right.
Okay. So anyways, what Ernie was talking about here, some of the things that he was talking about, I'll go through this real quick. I'm not going to cover all this because we'll be here for 3 or 4 weeks if I do. So and so I want to I show everybody these. See, these are well, people say they got birth certificate. Okay, and we always talk about the fictions. Most people don't know what the fiction really is. Okay, so like when you're born, the hospital fills you out one of these like this, except it does have your footprints on the bottom. When you get a copy of it from Vital Records, they'll take that off. Okay, there's a lot of ideas. People's got a lot of ideas why they do that. They claim that there's some protected information on there.
Identity theft.
Yeah, they say because of identity theft. But this is what's filled out. Okay, and this is a live birth record. Okay, and this is what the hospital fills out. The doctor signs it. Your parents sign it, and your name is written, in uppercase first letter, lowercase the rest of the letters. Okay, this is sent to the government. Okay, by the doctor. Okay, like you were just told. Okay, and then what they do, excuse me, is they make out a birth certificate. Okay, and it's got your name on there. All the same information is all on there. Okay, the time, the date, and everything that you were born is all on there. But this is not your birth certificate. This is the birth certificate of the legal fiction.
That's right.
Straw man.
Okay, people call it the straw man. Well, it's your legal name. Okay, that is the fiction, and it's all spelled out in capital letters. The name, the entire name is all capital letters. Okay, now you can get these from Vital Records from the state that you were born in. Okay, and when you apply for it, you apply for 2 of them. And then, I don't think well, I didn't bring the copies of it, but in the bottom of the application, you put request for long form, L-O-N-G, long form, in red letters, in red ink, on the bottom of one of the requests. And you'll get both of them. You'll get the live birth record, which is actually your certificate of live birth, and then the birth certificate of the fictional entity. Now, the reason they need that fictional entity is because when they want to prosecute you, okay, then they can't prosecute live flesh and blood human beings because they are fictional entities. Yep. They are, remember, in the hierarchy of man, the government was below man, okay, and they are a fiction because it is a corporation. They are corporations. Right. It's a fictional thing. It's not a live flesh and blood human being that's prosecuting you. They cannot prosecute you as a live flesh and blood. They have to prosecute you as a fiction. And they bring you in there to create a jointer between you're telling them that you are responsible for that fiction. Go ahead, Carol.
That form that you're going to request, you fill that out, do you?
Yeah, you fill it out.
Do you send them back to
vital records? Generally in the capital city.
Montana, or do you send to the state where you were actually born?
Where you were actually born. See, I was born in Wyoming, so I had to send to Cheyenne.
Yeah, well, I was born in Idaho, so. Yeah,
so you send to the capital city in Idaho, right. The vital records. You can find the addresses for those online.
Right.
They have all that. Okay.
Vital records is always in the capital of the state.
Yeah, it's a state organization.
The state of wherever the records are.
Department of that state.
Okay. Well, they create that. We're not going to get into it too much more than that, but that's some of the information that we cover in the meetings. Okay. And then so if there's any questions or anything on that, we can get into that, forever too. Okay. And now I'll try to get into another one here that probably a lot of you do not know, and this is one of the things that I touch on occasionally, is that Ernie was saying about your name, that your name is very important. That is your title of nobility. Okay? Well, I'll kind of touch on this a little bit, and then it's going to create a lot of questions with you. But like if you go to a bank, okay, and you say that, well, I went to the bank and I borrowed some money. Okay? Where did the bank get that money?
From the sovereign.
Huh?
From the sovereign.
Right. A lot of people think that the bank got that money from their depositors. It's against their law to loan out the depositor's money. They have to hold that depositor's money. And in this book, it explains a lot of that. See, they get that money when you sign on the dotted line. You created that money.
That's right. Just like with the credit card.
Right. You created it yourself. They gave you the money you created. So then why do you have to pay that money back to them? It's yours.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All you have to do, if you ever borrow money, buy a home, car, whatever, once they get you to sign that note, all you have to do is say, I want to see whether or not if you wrote a rubber check, take that note off, go down to the front cashier, flip it over, endorse it back, and say, cash it. Mm-hmm. If they don't cash it, you start yelling, you printed me a rubber note. What kind of bullshit is this? They have to pay that right then and there, and you push your money over and say, my debt's paid.
Right.
That's all you have to do.
Well, see,
You're accepting it for value.
See, you're
accepting it for value.
Yeah, you do an acceptance for value. There is what you're doing.
Right.
You're doing an acceptance for value.
Only the sovereign can create money, the people.
But see, the thing of it is that you don't even have to give them that money back. See, because all that is, and they have you sign a contract. Well, that contract is null and void from the time that it's created, because there is no risk on their part. They put in a computer entry. They did not loan you any money.
I know that.
It's a computer entry, and that money, they deposit that into your account. Generally, what they want you to do is deposit that into your account, because say you borrowed $100,000, then they can go and they can loan $900,000 because you just deposited that money, that $100,000 into your account.
Right.
that gave them what they needed to maintain according to the Federal Reserve in order to loan out then another $900,000. And that's how that system
Who
works.
thinks but if you create money out of your signature, how are those two connected? If you're just creating money out of things that are just on your signature.
You create money with your signature.
Right.
See, because you are a live flesh and blood human being, you can create the money. They are a fictional entity. They cannot create the money. It has to come from you. But then because of the Federal Reserve says they can loan out 9 times that money.
9
Of what they have
on their records, what they're holding. See?
Responsibilities, 9.
Yeah. Okay, well that's one of the things that we talk about there. And then also that another thing is any government contract that you have, your driver's license that you got in your pocket, Social Security card, all of this stuff, anything, any government contract that you sign is void because of non-disclosure. It does not follow contract. It does not follow contract law.
Congress in 1977 passed the law that there's 6 requirements for a complete contract, and one of them is full disclosure. And the other one is also that you voluntarily entered into it.
Yeah.
If you prove that they failed on either 2 of them now, they're screwed.
Okay, now when you go to court, I think this is 11. I got one more. Okay. On the birth certificates, what we're showing you here on the birth certificates too in, I don't know what verse it is, but in Deuteronomy in the Bible, there's one of the verses in there that explains that. And it talks about the, what is it? It doesn't say the person within getting stronger. It's in Deuteronomy. I'd have to look it back up again. But it's been in the Bible forever, well, since the Nicene Council wrote it,
Yeah.
So, so that isn't something that's just been dreamed up recently, about this fictional entity. And then ever since the bankruptcy, okay, it's been required that everybody has a birth certificate, okay, so that they can take that and trade it on the world market. See, so they make a lot of bucks off of that.
Ever since when?
Since the bankruptcy in 1933.
1933.
Was it 33? I thought
Sure it was 33.
they said it was 1930 because it was 3 years before Hitler.
So prior to that, they didn't have birth certificates?
No, they didn't. They had, it was a different, what they call them, they didn't call them birth certificates. Because they still had the fictional entities.
It was just a registration of
They just
county,
wrote the names
but
in the
most
Bible.
registration, as far as family was concerned, was in the Bible itself or at the church.
Yeah.
What do you mean when there's they take it and it's traded on the...
It's traded because they get anywhere from $600,000 to $1 million on each, say, if you were born. Oh, go ahead, Ernie.
The guy we all hate, Moore, the big fat loudmouth liberal guy that we all detest.
Oh, see.
Some of his work is you got to research your enemy, all of them, and you'll find out that most of them really ain't.
Oh, Michael Moore.
Michael Moore. He's got a deal in there that's called Pauper's Insurance Program that he uncovered when he was investigating Bush. And under the Pauper's Insurance Program, your name is valued at $3.7 million until you hit 70 years of age, and then it drops $1 million to 2.7. But they take that, multiply that times 3 per perpetuator or an actor of this fraud your entire lifetime. Every actor of this fraud times 3.
And now, see, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about what our so-called president here is saying about people that's 70 years of age or older, about their medical can be refused.
Comfort care.
Medical can be refused if you're 70 or older. See, I mean, and it's because you've already served your useful.
Your name.
See, just like you know, a lot of people don't want to read the Communist Manifestos. Well, the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto is in this book. And when you read them, you'll see that it's right here. You know, that this isn't the USA anymore, this is the USSA.
Right. And I think also, the reason you picked 70 is because, correct me if I'm wrong, in the Bible, a bankruptcy should last 70 years.
Well,
Then it gets refinanced again.
Jubilee, and the Old Covenant is 7 years.
7 years.
7 years. It used to be 7 times 70, which is 60 years?
Yeah.
Am I correct on that? And that was the length of the
Jubilee is 50.
Well, there's a Jubilee at 50, but it's to occur every 7 years.
Every 7 years.
So I know that this country goes through bankruptcies every 70 years.
Which is why they used to wait until you were 7 years of age before paperwork came forward on that fictional person, because they were still observing ecclesiastical law. They threw that out the door because they observed nothing. And now they commercialize your name, lying in wait like the lion doth its prey at the hospital door. They commercialize your signature, okay, and sell you. And they buy you.
There's remedies to all of this, and you know, we can get into a lot of this at another time, and we do get into a lot of this stuff, different things, you know, during the meetings that we try to get some people put together here to go through. But one of the things that, to kind of expand on one of the things that Ernie said, I can't do all of the things that he does.
You can see.
I don't know. I think a lot of nights thinking about this stuff. But say when, you know, and I've heard it so many times from people, they say, well, if you don't have to pay income tax, you don't have to pay property tax, you don't have to buy license plates, you don't have to, you know, pay taxes on your car, personal property, or any of that kind of stuff. Well, why are people going to jail because of this?
Because they're afraid of the chain of obedience. They're not afraid of the chain of command, they're afraid of the chain of obedience.
No, they hang themselves. See, they consent. They consent to it. They consent to it, and what they're walking into here is corporate law.
Yep.
See, when you go into court, what you have here, you have one position here, you have a position here, you have a position here. Okay, because that is the Holy Trinity. It's called the Holy Trinity. Okay, you have a director. Then you have a beneficiary. And then you have a trustee. Okay? And what you have here is the judge. Okay? And over here you have the prosecutor.
That's right.
And what you have here is both of these positions are government. Okay? Okay, then over here you are the trustee. This is
the subject of the trust.
Okay? Okay? The director he's the one that controls everything. Okay? And then he controls it. He tells the trustee what to give to the beneficiary. Okay? And the beneficiary has something in there. He's going to get some kind of a fine or something. Okay? So then they tell you that they will provide an attorney if you can't afford one, or you can hire one. So then you come down here and you get an attorney. Okay? And who is he? He's with a corporation. Okay? The Bar Association Corporation.
That's right.
Okay? And he has to obey those bylaws, which is in the government.
Right. Kind of like another beneficiary.
So, go ahead.
Under the CJS, even a court-appointed attorney or your attorney, case law underneath your CJS states that if there's a conflict between the attorney and his client, he is to disregard his client and obey the judge.
Exactly.
Wow. As they're an officer of the court.
He is an officer of the court.
Right.
See,
Now, is that why they don't want you to represent yourself?
right.
Oh, it's got to do with any of this stuff.
See, and a lot of the judges now, you have to have a bar licensed attorney.
Yep.
Or else you cannot go into that courtroom. Now like what I was trying to tell Joel, I pronounce his name Bonnick. Okay? Joel Bonnick. And attorney, I won't even pronounce his last name. There is another way to do this.
That's right.
And what you can do, see, because you don't take an attorney, okay? You self-represent.
That's right.
Okay, don't tell me represent yourself, say I self-represent. Okay? Then when he comes in here, the judge comes in here and they ask you what your name is, okay, you tell them what your name is, and you tell them, I am the director, the beneficiary, and the sole shareholder of the legal name.
That's right.
Okay, you have just taken over the director and the beneficiary. That makes them the trustee. They are liable.
That's right.
90% of the time, that judge will get up and walk out.
That's right.
Judge is the facilitator.
Yeah. And also you can go in there and you can show them, I am the trustee, I am the director and beneficiary. Right here is my receipt,
That's right.
my live birth record. You are a flesh and blood human being. They cannot prosecute you.
That's right.
Also bring up that is certified by their co-workers.
That's right, by their fictional entities.
Did you say that, what did you recommend that one say in court?
That you are the director, okay, the beneficiary, and the sole shareholder of the legal name. Because this is your legal name. The birth certificate that they gave you.
That's your legal name, that's your lawful name.
Yeah,
Right.
this one here is your legal name, this is your lawful name.
Yeah.
Okay? The birth certificate of that entity that they sent you, that people call the straw man, it's a trust, it's an unincorporated corporation that is created as a fiction in your behalf. And they tell you to put it in a safe place and not to use it for ID, because it is not your ID. It is the ID of your fictional entity.
One of the best ways to learn the separation of legal and lawful is in, the attorneys have their own language. It looks like English, but it's actually called legalese.
Right, legalese, yes.
Terms of art.
Yes.
The word
What's that?
the phrases color of law and words of art all go back to lawyers' Latin. Lawyers' Latin was the attorneys that started all this play on words, and they were chastised, and most of them were never allowed to practice law. But over the years, it worked to the advantage, especially to a corrupt government, to have these lawyers' Latin agents working for them.
Well,
So, question.
we've been kicking a lot of this stuff around the Gallup. We've got a really active group over there. We've shut down 15 foreclosures on the courthouse steps. Caused some of them to flee for their lives right off of there by notice of enjoinder to major lawsuits and different things.
You shut down 15 what now?
Foreclosures.
Foreclosures?
Okay.
Stopped them in auction right on the courthouse steps, on film.
All right.
You want to film this stuff, it's your evidence. This is exactly what Mr. Miller has drawn out for you there. We have been filing documents on the court, because it's on their heads, using this very principle here under the word principle, which there are 6 definitions of the word principle, P-R-I-N-C-I-P-A-L.
And they change it. One of the things is, just like the different editions of the Black's Law Dictionary, the definitions are changed from one to the next, because they change them as they wish, as they need the change. And just like all of the statutes, just like the papers that are handed out here, statutes, codes, all that stuff that's in that United States codes there, they will change those periodically. See, so that you can't keep up with it. Now, everything that they do is hidden right in plain sight.
Yes.
Yeah, right in plain sight. It's on the public record.
But they keep people so
They got
distracted
so much of it, and they change it so often, people don't want to mess with it.
So if you go back and try to get them to look at the earlier edition, do they have to take that definition, or do they say that that's not?
It depends on if they want to. I mean, it depends on how much you're going to force it. See, like what I do, like I tell people, if I'm driving down Main Street at 100 miles an hour, okay, and they stop me and they give me a ticket, okay, for driving down Main Street at 100 miles an hour. I didn't break a law, because there is no law that says I can't drive down there. There's a color of law that says that I can't drive down there at 100 miles an hour. I have to drive 35, okay? But I have broken the law if I run over somebody, run into somebody's car, because there's only 3 ways to break a law. I don't think I told them that, did I?
No.
3 ways to break the law. And that's to harm another human being, damage their property, or use fraud or mischief in their contract.
Well, that's right.
Say the last one again.
Use fraud or mischief in a contract.
Basically, do what you've agreed to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those are ecclesiastical.
Right, it's kind of like the government. They never do that. That's why a government contract is void from the time that it's signed.
Just ask Robin Indian.
Yeah. So anyways, where was I before that?
They are solving this change of vocabulary. If you watch some of the new Waco documents, on the last page or on the back of one of the pages, they'll have a list of words and their definitions that they're using
Right.
on that document.
Right. They describe. They give you a definition so that you know how to read that document. Okay. Now you can take the same document, the same words, and they got a different set of definitions, and it can mean a totally different thing.
Would it be effective if we ever go in and have to go into court and we ask the judge which version of Black's Law Dictionary would this court accept during this trial?
Totally acceptable. You have to. I mean, that's
Seeing that
more
the
of your
definitions
duty.
have changed over time, which
You
definition
can.
does this court accept?
John.
If you can get a Bovier's Law Dictionary.
Right.
Bovier's Law Dictionary is the only dictionary sanctioned by Congress and paid for to write up
I have it right here.
on a CD.
That's the one you were going to bring to me.
It was right there. What? Like 3 hours?
I get one of those discs.
Okay.
You know what the bad thing is, Ed? There's enough for everybody but you.
Excuse me.
I got everybody but me. That's about right. don't get off with all of them.
Don't do it, trying to get to
They
it.
stole all of ours.
Give him one quick. Give me one quick. Give Lee all.
Okay. And there's another way. There's another way that you can also get the upper hand in a courtroom. Okay, and in the courtroom, when say that they're just not listening to you at all, and like a lot of times they do that in the courts, you can declare that a common law court. Submit an affidavit at that time for a change of venue. A change of venue means changing the judge, because most of the time you can get the judge out there because of bias. He is a government employee. He's getting paid by the government. If the government is charging you with something, he can't sit in judgment of you. Okay, but so you just declare it a common law court, put in a change of venue, and then you recess the court until you can seat a common law judge, according to the Bill of Rights, Article 7.
Most people think a change of venue would be a change of location, because they're thinking venue as a building.
No, venue is a judge.
Right.
When you put in a change of venue, that means you're changing the judge. Okay, because due to bias. Because he is a government employee, and if somebody's fining you or whatever, or they got charges against you, that's the state or it's the federal or whatever, then the judge is biased. And then you put in the jury, you can put in a common law jury, and the foreman of the jury can act as the judge. Okay?
Isn't that something? They got the judge, they got the prosecuting attorney, and we got nothing.
So who's going to win?
Yeah.
Right.
2 quick points. Venue ties to the word venal, and it means of the mind. Bias, okay? And when you're a registered fiction, what do you suppose that does to the actuality of being a jury member capable of judging ecclesiastical violation? Renders it
Void.
You look at, also in this book has the jury duties. And the judges...
That's the one I was going to bring, Citizens Rule Book. I I have that on disc too.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, that's one I was thinking.
That's right. See, you missed that one. So,
Okay, I claim to be more perfect.
Well, you're slipping, aren't you?
because see, in the common law, instead of in the corporate law, see, when you go to common law, you can have a jury, and one of those people out of the 12 can say no, and you're out of there. There's so many of us have been hung on non-crimes, see, because we've been in the corporate system.
Right.
See, and so if we can get into a common law system, and that's what we're trying to get put together here, where everybody has to start supporting each other.
That's right.
Yes.
And working against this type of a system, because it is a socialist system.
And speaking of non-crimes, there's a Supreme Court ruling, I forget which one it was, but it said that in order for a crime to exist, there has to be an injured party.
Right, it has to be an injured party. And if there's no injured party, there's no crime. See, so driving down Main Street at 100 miles an hour is not a crime.
Unless
they call it a crime. Now, if you run over somebody, yes, it's a crime. Yeah. See, and you are liable. See, go ahead, Carol.
Well, I was going to say, it used to, I mean, years ago, I followed some guy down in Wyoming, and he went to court a number of times, but it was over taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And he, but now, they got all of the bases covered. You know, then a lot of those tax rebels would win, because they would beat the judge, and they would help the prosecutor.
See, just the same thing that happens here, you know, that when, like the livestock division comes in here, and they tell me that I can't sell rabbits' eggs and raw cow's milk out of here, okay? Well, I tell them, show me the law. And that's what we have to do, is tell them, show me the law. And they come up with a code, a public servant code, tell them that negligence is equal to fraud, too. Because, see, just like how does it go? Negligence of the law.
Ignorance of the law
is no excuse. It works on them too.
Exactly.
See, they have to know that. See, but most of these people, these police officers and all, they're so conditioned to believe that these laws, that these codes, and these statutes and stuff are laws when they're the color of law. They're not the law. See, we have three laws.
Most of us take their word.
Right,
because
we take their word.
We abide by that because we're scared.
We are consenting, and we're creating that joinder. We're creating that joinder between the flesh and blood human being and the fictional entity. See, and they act on the fictional entity. See, just like when they come up and they want the driver's license. They want your driver's license, proof of insurance, and your registration. Then you can tell them, well, I want to see your ID, a business card, and your badge.
There you go.
Yeah, that badge number.
Because you have to know who you're talking to.
That's right.
And he said, well, I'm in a uniform, so I can buy one of them.
Yeah.
You know? See, he has to show you that.
Okay, something that most people don't understand, under Public Law 101-650 on the federal government at least, the term judge does not apply to an Article 3 adjudicator, but to an executive administrator officer.
Administrator or minister?
The minister, executive minister, what you call an administrative law judge.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. When you talk about opening the court, especially like a common law court, okay, I've held a couple of them so far. One in Jordan and one up at the...
Common law courts?
Yes.
Okay.
And the first common law court, the county attorney actually cried because we refused to let him in. The second one, a state district judge threw Jay Brand in prison for contempt of court until he produced his workers' comp papers and everything else, because he hired private contractors to work for him. We held a common law court, held it in the sheriff's training room, and we filed it Monday morning, and Thursday morning he was released from prison, and the county attorneys went ballistic and the district judge refused to address why that man was released. And what it is when you consider a court, a court is where the one man opens that court, his court. Did you not all go courting for a wife?
Yeah.
And so forth. When you read, Amos 5:29, and the Fenton Bible, it says, establish justice in your law courts.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So the thing is,
I think we got something backwards here a little bit too, because I think I should be sitting over there and you should be up here.
Good pattern of difference. I'm going to call the Montana Freedmen, one of the leaders.
Oh, okay. All right.
So anyway,
okay.
The thing is, it's not bragging or anything. Mm-hmm. The thing is that with this, what you guys have presented is outstanding. You filled in a lot of gaps. Mm-hmm. But when you read the Constitution, that Constitution was for two different groups of people. Mm-hmm. That's why they talk about separation of state and church. Mm-hmm. Okay? That Constitution, we the people, had the right to worship the Almighty Father, Yahweh. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay? The other people had the choice, same with Elijah. When they said, we wanted the king, Elijah cries to Yahweh and says, they rejected me. He says, no, they rejected me. Go ahead and give them the damn king, so they could be like other nations. Yeah. So that they made a separation of their people when they settled this country. This is the first free government in the world. Mm-hmm. And anyway, the Roman Catholic Church always wanted to take possession of the property. Once they realized when they signed the peace treaty in 1789 or 1783 that they made us a free government, it's either 1814 or 1817, I don't recall right now, the Roman Catholic Church under the Holy Alliance with Persia, Russia, and England, they declared war on all free governments. Mm-hmm. And that war is still going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an unfinished war.
Right.
And that was one other point that I was going to bring up, and then I'm going to kind of shut up here. Is about property. I've said several times that you don't have to pay the property tax. Well, if you consent to it, yes, you do. See, anything you consent to, yes, you have to do it. Mm-hmm. Okay, because you stop consenting. Yes, you stop consenting. But see, like on properties, you have to bring the land patent forth. And now I'm working with somebody that Ernie knows here on doing that. I just got a hold of him. I've been researching this on with a lot of other information, and there is a lot of bogus information out there, and you have to sort it out. See, and so that's why I say don't believe what we're putting out here. Go and look it up for yourself. You know, educate yourself on what it is. Then you'll know, what it is. You know, for sure, and then you'll get past that part of where you just don't believe it. You know, your denial part, because all of us goes through that. Say, oh, that can't happen in here. I've got an older brother that tells me that all the time, and I say, I know I'm on the right track. So, and that's the way that you find out, like if you go to court, and they start getting real upset with you, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Don't let them intimidate you. Right. See, I let them intimidate me all the time. Even the police officers out here, I get all jittery and everything. But you can't let them do that. See, because then they win. Because then they'll create that joinder. And one thing that they ask, or two things they ask for, is your name and your birth date. Okay? You don't know when you were born. Okay? You know what day, but then in a court of law, you can't prove it.
Hearsay.
See? Yeah, it's all hearsay evidence. You can't prove when you were born. So you're totally within your rights to say, I don't know when I was born. Then they start acting like you're an idiot and everything. They make an idiot out of themselves acting like you're an idiot. But see, you know that when you're on the right track is when they're really getting upset at you. Yeah. See, and then you just stand there and smile. Yeah. Go ahead.
We just brought Thor's hammer to bear on Brian Adams, the honorable judge in Gallatin County, through a lady who was held at gunpoint for 4 hours just outside of Churchill on a nothing deal the other night. Thor's hammer is in your terms of art deal, and it is the sure sanguinis coronae. That is the right of crowns to the right of blood.
Brought that up.
It is the summufence, and it is the only remedy that the court has left unto itself. That is the sole forgiveness that they can obtain for sinning against your title of nobility.
Did you write that up here?
No, I didn't.
Can you
Would you like to do it? Yes, sir. They don't have to write my last name.
You might have to write your last name.
I don't think I can get past that word.
How's that scripture go? For lack of knowledge, my people perish.
My people perish for lack of knowledge.
That's pretty much what we do here, is just we put out knowledge with you guys are actually educating yourselves with this information.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I thank you, Mr. Miller.
You betcha.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
great.
Thanks to all you guys. Yes, sir. I will write that out. Absolutely, sir. Thank you,
So I had trouble even spelling it.
Well, I had all kinds of Greek when I was in high school. I had 278 of them stupid Greek gods, and I threw them all in the trash can. And 50 years later, they're haunting me.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Jure Sanguinis Coronae looks like this. It is in the document terms of legal control / power. Okay, and it is. And I will tell you that Rome has freaked when we laid this one on them. They immediately, right, grounds, this would be the simple, due to royal, which means natural. Remember, that exceeds fiction. Blood. You want to make them evidence that you're not dirt. They spend all their time trying to separate themselves away from the land so that they can appear as Greek gods over man. Okay, but the ones that are of the soil, that's where the power lies, and that is what it appears as right there. And it establishes you, as Mr. Martin just drew out here. It establishes you as the principal, which means first in time. In other words, without Mr. Miller actually being birthed upon the land, they had no mass substance with which to imagine a fictional Mr. Miller. He is first in time, which comes first, the chicken or the egg, and Mr. Miller came first. Then came the fictional image of him, okay? So principle, you want to make sure you make that clear, because there's many definitions for principle, and if you don't do your homework good enough, they'll be happy to let you be the principal, because that means you're the one who just guaranteed to pay the debt. You're going to pay the bill to the court. So that's the deal, and the principal is always up here at the top of the heap. He's the one in charge of everything that's going on. You take that little symbol right there, and you run a curve through it like this, and now what do you have? Sextant.
Yeah.
Sextant. So the spirit glass here. For what? Navigation. Yeah. Admiralty, maritime law. Pay attention to those. Admira, Mary. Myra, Mary. So 2 letters difference. And both of them are astrology. Oh, gods. You don't work. What a trick.
Well, astrology, I think astronomy is part of Fred's.
Well,
because there's a difference between astrology and astronomy.
Yeah, exactly. Big difference. Astrology leads you into alchemy, and then you're back to Regulus, the philosopher's stone,
And astronomy is the study of space and time.
Exactly. You get into quantum dimensions, quantum physics on that.
The essence of critical thinking is comprised of the 543, which is the Pythagoras triangle.
Yes.
5 being the census, 3 being the trivium, which is grammar, logic, and rhetoric, and 4 is the quadrivium, which is math, numbering, and self, geometry, numbering, space, music, numbering, time, and astronomy, numbering, space, and time.
Perfect. That's the diatomical scale, the musical scale that the Earth actually emits as it orbits while it's on the plane, as it spins, a diatomical scale. This is why people sometimes get sick without anything around them, because the Earth emits subfrequential tones that your body knows is there, but you don't, because you can't hear it, but your body is picking it up, okay? And it affects your entire being, your person, your best. So, and that all figures into it, and when you're in tune with the things that are under ecclesiastical law, you are in harmony, not the harmony of the song.
H-A-R-M. Harmony. Oh, also another website you could probably put out there would be creditorsincommerce.com.
Okay.
Because that also ties in with what you're saying about ships on the Sea of Commerce. And
I'm going to draw some stuff out for you guys, but we're dismissed. So if you want to keep the camera going, ma'am, this will really interest what's on the other side of the camera. Okay, tell me your website again.
Creditorsincommerce.com. Creditors, as plural. That basically is a website that shows you how to live within their system by using their own rules to your advantage.
Have any meetings where you are?
I'm going to show you what happened to Joe Pontiac a little bit. Let's see.
Mostly in the south, the people's
Ocean does
17 to
That's the negative power. And the 6 is a negative. And they're 6 one. They have a plan.
wonderful.
That's when those 6. Yep, exactly. They can't handle it. It's because like darkness and you are like that. Yes, you mean a kid.
Somebody must have got
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
7,600 people.
Stay neutral.
Yep, and then the children disappointed and we're married anyway, and we found everything all up again.
I sent him that back.
They were just all of them. So, let them do what they want to do. And he has.
I like it.
What's your name again?
Marty,
Yes, of course, this will be way too long for her. And there's so much here that you're not feeling really well. I mean, it's not fun.
Just Gary down there.
We didn't know about that's the same in the office.
Yes, that's my amateur radio call sign. Involving him right now. KD708.
Richie, where were you?
you go with what you know.
Shorty was, trying from it, do the best you can.
Why, sure, it's places, at least you're not getting a tower line. With long grass. Right on. See, now you know, you can turn a lot of this around, and there are things that we don't sign. Any contract that join anything, where we have to sign our name, don't join. We have to join for that sheet. We don't join, we just don't sign. Everything is right back into the corporate. And everything's worked out. Oh, yes, absolutely. Is he still living?
I'm finding myself hooked into Steve Coyle and because of the updated information.
Does he live out of the place?
You're pretty
Well, not the language, so it's, might be about,
sounds gonna take care of those people.
Relax and slow down. Well, we're in for a big one. And we have a responsibility.
We got it all fine. Hey, let's please get on it.
What happened to Joel finish this up, the court said the judge has adhered to oath or hire captain that appeared as the justice of the peace. Her court was a private too. She was sold for a fortune, having a private contract with the ends of the court, okay, which is the face of wrong. It's the nobility of wrong. She had a private contract to commit acts of warfare upon the vessel known as the Joel Bunyan. Okay? To run him down, to take him, to seize him, to board him in acts of piracy at sea. There are 3 C's. Okay, there is on, sea, and that's of humanity. And that, of course, is going to be spelled in on capital fiction, because what? It's only fiction, right? Okay. In C. That means C, which means for Roman commerce. Okay, see those? On C, in C, at C. Now here comes the high C's. C's. A, B, you guys have got this in your documents. So that's the law trusts. Like this. Okay. Under a word called gamere, equals sum, say equals 6. Okay. There are 3, 15, 40. Ecclesiastical, Noah had to tell muting. $16.66 Milo P. Mary, and remember that Mary equals Mars, God of War. Mary times. What did the kings do in the spring of the year? Went out to war, right? And 1933. Commerce. Okay. So, what do you have? 6. Well, you're going to be sterilized in man's life. I should hold that teaching more to mine up here, man, when you've got this to your satisfaction and let you hear both sides of that, because there's so much more information on there, and your camera would capture, and I don't have to talk. I'll give you a break from me.
I hope it's in the.
I'll slip right here.
Erased it. I think Ed was expecting a copy.
Where would you like me to stand, ma'am?
Yeah, I see, that's, it's pretty hard to pick that all up very plain.
All right, do I need to move up?
Hey, it's.
Well,
No, I didn't know.
So we can't get it all on there.
yeah, if I bring it in further, I can't get it all on there.
All right, that's all right. And side and side. People following they'll pick it up through the course of necessary time.
But Ed has his own recipe.
So does it go side to side, or does it go down and,
Kind of goes down, some of it's side to side.
okay, well, I'll just do it up and down.
Yeah, just give it your best shot. It's all right. Wrong with not being an expert, I'm not an artist.
Our house is 13 miles from the spot. But you go up west and then you go south. We're pretty much north of here. It's California. It takes for a while to get to the airport. You know what the Diamond Bar Ranch was? So we're about halfway between Roundup Road.
That last part is kind of,
Because I went out that way, I'm told to go there.
We are halfway between Shepherd and so that people, you know, it's 7 miles to Ashland, 7 miles to
Are
Shepherd.
the Freemans still together, or are they?
This isn't an espresso bar. I don't have the right.
okay.
This is a little bigger for the most part of the
So
day.
I serve coffee. I have recipes and chai teas and regular tea and some of these stuff. So I had a shopping tour for a while. Circumstance. I'm still moving along. It's night Shepherd. Yeah, I kind of think I would own this. Because until you're all the guns.
Language away from them.
Or to confirm with adversary.
Okay.
You are afraid of me?
Now, what is your understanding, they say this is a Judeo-Christian nation?
Be very careful.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Anyone has to touch us.
Total opposites cannot be. The two cannot ever exist. Darkness has no fellowship with light.
There was a guy that came and spoke, and he was a Christian guy from Idaho, but he spoke for about an hour, but he kept calling it a Judeo-Christian, and I went over to him and I said, look, that is not possible. I said, that's not possible. You're either Christian or Jewish.
And he said that Judeo had to do with like the Ten Commandment part of it and stuff. There
are those that are claiming to be involved in the Messianic Christian movement where they observe the Messiah and things like that. And this is really a touchy subject, and I'm not an expert on it. Alright, be clear. The problem is that they end up heaping the laws of the Old Covenant onto themselves to such a degree that the law of grace which came forward in the New Covenant is nullified.
So behind that law.
So that at the sum of it, the hortus conclusus of that subject, what they have for the forefense of their name is only law. Only the law that killed and had no element, no balance of grace in it, no room for forgiveness. Very lethal ground, very dangerous, and there are many good people very dangerous. Be very careful.
So it should never be used.
You better search that contract out to the bottom of the rabbit hole, find the rabbit, and leave your footprints on him before you agree to any of that work. Please be very careful.
Yeah, the founding fathers, Jefferson, Washington, Benjamin Franklin, they wanted to remove, not allow the Jews, they were going to put it in the Constitution, but they wouldn't let them, to remove the Jews from the United States of America and to never have any of them here, period.
The funny part about them boys is that they're what's called Zionists, which is not Hebraic. If you look into the Old Covenant history and you go to the time of King David, you will find that the word Zion is used 53 times in the Old Covenant, 32 times in the New Covenant. Never, hear me, not one time is God, God's children, the Hebrews, we of the Christian adoption into it, never ever are we ever aligned with of the Zionist mentality and the Zionist claims. The Zionists were very arrogant and bold and haughty in spirit, and they always bragged, no man can remove our star from its place. Where is it at to this day? Where do you see this at? It's on the flag of Israel, which is ruled by what? Not the Hebrews. The Hebrews are still scattered all over the earth. What's ruling Israel? It is they of this symbol right here that come forward in the year of 959 BC, holding their first mystery, first school of the Eastern mysteries beneath the floor of Temple Salt.
Names and phone numbers to notify for the next meeting.
Sure. Yep, communications. You guys all got to get to know each other. But that's the deal. Okay? Don't go there. Both the weights. The lion is waiting his gate. Leah had grown angry with the house of Jacob Israel and cast them off of his name. Just like that, he laid out a bill of attainder, of which there were 7 tainders, and the word tainder means a charge of sinful behavior, which is why the Freemasons in 1789, 1787 said the bill of attainder. Charges of sinful behavior can be laid on us because we know what we're going to do, and therefore we're opting out of guilt. Okay?
Everything.
David was, God had laid out this list of attainders, which there are 7 in nature. It's all about human slavery. The first recorded transaction that I have been able to find so far occurs in Genesis chapter 2, I believe it is, when the Nephilim see the daughters of Adam in the field and desire them, but it's not written to where they took them by force. It wasn't a rendition program. It is written with the knowledge that they made an official contract. They went to the fathers of those daughters and they said, we want your daughters, we want to buy them from you, so we'll trade you out of them. And the fathers, Mansria, in mind and now in hand, said, great, what's that girl of mine worth to you? And the miners, which were the Nephilim, said, well, we've got caves full and tons of gold, minerals, sapphires, elements, diamonds, you name it. We've got all this stuff because it's all listed out what they had for mineral supplies right before that. We will trade you that for your daughters, and the sons of Adam said, sold. That's the first transaction of commercial slavery. And it is brought up against them by God in Isaiah chapter 6, when God says, you guys have set of Israel has set itself up to be a perpetual trading party on its brothers as tribes to seize their daughters to continue transacting, selling these girls to the Nephilim for the purpose of the corruption of blood, which is written in here under the Freemasons' definition of treason. But a tainder shall not work corruption of blood. They addressed it. They know exactly their history, where they come from. They come right out of the Nephilim of Genesis 2, way back then. They know. Okay? There was a repeater along the line, and it comes in the appearance of Abraham and who? Hagar. Abraham had a wife. Her name was Sarah. Sarah had a handmaid. Her name was Hagar. Sarah scoffed in her soul when God made a deal with her son. Well, I made you have a child. She laughed. I'm small. Never happened. Told Abraham went, wow. But you can do it, but you know what? I'm going to go. But Sarah scoffed. Okay? And because of that, when it came up between her and Abraham, she said, are you kidding me? There's no way. I'm serving 100 years of me. They ain't going to have with that. I'll tell you what, you see my handmaid over here? Oh, Hagar? Well, you get it on with her, and her child will be born in the ecclesiastical tradition. I will set on a stone or a stool in the land there, very specifically. I will hold my arms exactly in this position. You will cause Hagar at the instant of delivery to be placed backside, well, actually forwards facing Sarah, so that the child would be delivered right onto Sarah's lap. This was the way of making an adoption. It was a blood adoption because the blood was then on the second month. Okay? But is that what God said? No. God said, I'll cause you to have a son. And Sarah breached the contract. And Abraham went along with it. Now what comes out of that lineage? The wild man tribe. Okay? You have a corrupt bloodline. It started up here, it came down here, repeater of it, it picked up strength, like a phone signal going down power lines, picks up, keeps that signal going so you can actually hear each other miles apart. And it kept that communication of corrupted blood going all the way down to this very night.
Who's that?
That is their symbol. Solomon grew up watching his father, King David, put him to death with the edge of the sword. he actually conquered it. God had told Isaiah, he said, you tell them people this is what I said. You take up the star of your God, Renfan, Moloch, and Baal. Baal. Tell them to pick it up. Go ahead. They're not mine anyway, and they're cursed. Never do they have anything to do with me. And this is the conclusus, the oldest conclusus of that. Isaiah said, they are of the races of the east, this evil little bunch of people. They're of the races of the east, which you, O God, did not create. They're not Hebraic. They use the Judaic Jew. They use the phrases, their slang word Jew for their race. They hide behind it. They hide behind it. And behind the Hebrews, the Zionists manipulate like an evil puppet master. All the world banking strings, the military strings, the cultural strings, they commit genocide, they commit all manner of sin against humanity. And who gets the blame for it? Because people have lack of knowledge, the Jews catch it and act, which means it's the Hebrews, when actually it's the Zionists who's doing it. And they've got the Jews, the Judaic bunch, caught between walking a hard spot, and they're getting pounded by people who have no proper knowledge. And Semite has nothing to do with it. Semite is a white tribe, okay? Now, not in the Jewish, it doesn't have anything to do with it, but in the terms of legal control / power, you're going to find a phrase called doli incapax. Doli incapax is also known as dolus incapax, dolus encephalus. It means tall, white-skinned, slender, large nose, blue-eyed, and not a wide forehead, but a narrow span between the eyes. And they who claim dolus incapax, doli incapax, is they of the judicial system who are operated under this mark. This is their mark. They're operating under it. That means, due to our Aryan bloodlines, we are incapable of sin. Now you know why they wrote in there no bill of attainder. It's not possible. We cannot sin. It's impossible. We can do whatever we want, and because we're gods of the Aryan bloodline, we can do no sin. Who's we? They of the Doli Incapax, the Zionists. Well, they think they can. That's their claim. They make it work upon your head if you don't know about it. It's there. I've given it to your hands this night. You guys know all this stuff. You're carrying it home with you. I didn't set out to fail.
99% of the Zionists are Khazars. That's Turk-Mongolian.
Ashkenazis. That's right. Ashkenazis.
Yeah.
They're the red tribes of Russia. They claim the Doli Incapax. That's them. They are the ones who exterminated 77 million persons throughout World War II. It was the Red Plague, the Red Flood of blood that went across there, was paying back the Russian Tsar for his non-compliance with World War I. The Trotskyites? Yes. Yes. That is the bunch. And they are of the races of the East, which Isaiah said, you, O God, did not create. Do the work and you'll find it out.
Well, they're the ones that control our government here.
That's right, through ends of court. You have the information.
That bloodline is in control here.
I'm thinking,
they claim title and nobility.
this one we were in there.
But they're not actual. They are the fraud that they have made descent.
Well, there's a woman judge.
That's why they brought in Coogan.
Did you know, let me tell you something. I've got a niece that has worked for Bozeman Deaconess for 17 years.
He was trying to...
Bozeman Deaconess Hospital, 17 years. With the Obama healthcare thing coming to where she's seeking to do something different. So she's been taking online courses to get herself certified to become a health advocate, a health counselor. So when we go in, she can say, well, if I was you, I'd do this, I'd do that, whatever. All right. Well, I was at her house on a Sunday afternoon. About 5 3 months ago, and she was showing what she studied. Because it's a big deal. This is quite an accomplishment for Gary. She's married to a blind guy and has quite a big role. He's very smart, but he's a big role. So she was very proud to show me what she's studying and learning, but you've got to have it going on out here to get it on. It takes time. And all of a sudden, on her computer screen, it pops up these words. It says, Obama healthcare bill, Jewish utopia, 7 years of eternal rest.
What did it say?
It said Jewish utopia, 7 years of eternal rest. It came right up on the computer screen in the crap she studied. And she said, what the heck is that? And I said, well, that ties right into everything I've been studying. Believe you me, I didn't expect to see this right in the middle of the healthcare bill, and there it is. Because it's not the Hebrews have soul and have compassion. This bunch, no soul, no compassion. They want the world's people gone. You will find another Hebraic phrase that will come forward because they use everything in the Hebrew, so they got something to hide behind. That phrase is Tikkun Olam. TikkanOlam. And it means the reconstructing of the earth after the global cleansing. That's where the healthcare bill is headed.